Rosaria is coming! And she has huge physical damage potential.
I hear you've got a job for me. You can't run! Lights out.
So Rosaria is a new 4-star cryo polearm user who's coming out in the 1.4 patch. Venti will be the first 5-star banner, and then Child. And Child will bring along Rosaria as one of the 4 stars. Today we're going into her kit, and I'll tell you why I think she's going to be a physical DPS monster and why Gladiator set is the best set for her. I'll also be covering the weapons, especially the free-to-play options, the Crescent Pike and the Dragon Spine Spear. And we'll also go over some recommended team comps. But take everything I say here with a grain of salt, as the information we know about Rosaria can change when she gets released. Starting with her base attack, she has the 3rd highest base attack out of all the 4 stars, with Xinyan and Fischl being the 1st and 2nd respectively. We can then compare her normal attack scaling with another 4-star polearm user, Xiangling. Just looking at the values, we can see that Rosaria has much higher normal attack scaling than Xiangling. Rosaria has 2 less hits on her normal attack, but the total scaling is much higher than Xiangling. Xiangling's base attack at level 90 is 225, while Rosaria's is 240. Her normal attack's gonna slap! Her elemental skill Ravaging Confession teleports her behind her opponent and does 2 hits of cryo damage. The cooldown on this is 6 seconds. This kind of reminds me of the last hit on Kaya's normal attack string, which teleports him behind the opponent. I'm thinking Rosaria's skill will have a kind of a lock-on feature which accurately teleports her behind the nearest opponent. Her elemental burst Rites of Termination is a 2-hit AoE cryo damage, but it stays on the field for 8 seconds and deals AoE cryo damage every 2 seconds. So it's kind of like a mix of Chongyun's and Diona's burst. The cooldown on this is 15 seconds. So there is no mention anywhere of her skill or her burst infusing cryo to her normal attacks. And we can see this from trailer footage that her attacks are still physical even when she uses her skill or burst. So we are very much leaning into a physical DPS right here. Now let's talk about her talents. She has a gimmick of 10% movement speed during nighttime. Personally, I think that's just tedious having to set the time of day if I want the buffs, so we're not going to talk about that. Her next talent is what makes her interesting. It gives her 12% crit rate for 5 seconds after hitting an enemy from the back. Remember, her skill teleports her to the enemy's back and has a cooldown of 6 seconds. Assuming that the crit rate buff is activated after damaging an enemy with her skill, then that means you have 12% bonus crit rate almost all the time, with just 1 second of downtime every 5 seconds. She also has a support talent that gives 15% of her crit rate to other party members after using her burst. So if she has 100% crit rate, other party members get 15% crit rate. So possible scenario for a support Rosaria would be you cast her burst, everything gets cryo status, switch to your pyro main DPS, get boosted crit rate, then trigger melt. Sounds good to me. Even without looking at constellations, given her high base attack and high normal attack scaling, she is looking to be a physical DPS character. Once you get constellations, then all the more does she lean towards physical DPS. C1 increases her attack speed by 10% and normal attack damage by 10% for 4 seconds after dealing a critical hit. That is huge, especially when you think about the implications of this on Crescent Pike. Having increased attack speed means more procs of the Crescent Pike's passive bonus damage. C2 increases burst duration by 4 seconds. This effectively gives 2 more ticks of damage. Nice to have for more consistent cryo procs. This makes the downtime on her burst only 3 seconds. If Rosaria is in a support cryo applicator role, then this constellation makes her more effective in that role. C4 gives Rosaria energy when she does a crit with her skill. Lots of stuff in her kit benefit from getting crit hits. So if you have a high crit rate, potentially every 6 seconds you can get 5 energy. It's not that big of a deal, but C6, oh boy, her burst reduces physical resistance by 20%. I like it. Now looking at her whole kit with constellations or without constellations, she's looking to deal a lot of physical damage, but I can see her being a cryo DPS if paired with Chongyun, then infuse her normal attacks with cryo. But if you get her to C6, then definitely you want to build for physical. Or you can just use her C6 as a support to buff your other physical DPS like Razor. But why would you want to use Razor as a main DPS when you have Rosaria? Look at her! Then pair her with Fischl as a support, you got yourself consistent superconduct debuffs, which reduces enemy physical resistance by 40% for 12 seconds. Then putting another cryo unit, preferably Diona for shields and heals, will give you cryo resonance, which is 15% more crit rate against enemies affected by cryo. Then you can add another electro unit, anybody really, to get more energy particles and therefore be able to spam your burst. So 2 cryo, 2 electro team comp. Alternatively, you can also go with just Fischl and 2 Pyro characters like Bennett and Xiangling or Xinyan. That way you get Super Conduct and 25% more attack from Pyro Resonance. Now let's talk about artifact sets and why I think 4-piece Gladiator is going to be the best on her. For a physical DPS who relies on normal attacks, either 4-piece Gladiator or 4-piece Retracing Bolide would be best. The 2-piece effect on Gladiator gives her 18% attack, which helps not only her normal attacks but also her skill and burst damage. Now the 4-piece effect is 35% more normal attack damage. You want to get that because you'll be doing mostly normal attacks with Rosaria. Now 4-piece Bolide does have 5% more damage than Gladiator, and it also affects charge attacks. But looking at Rosaria's kit, there's nothing in there that would make you do charge attacks, unlike Hu Tao where you want to do charge attacks to apply Blood Blossom. Also, the 5% normal attack damage increase is negligible, given that you have to switch out Rosaria, bring in your shielder, use the shield, and then switch back to Rosaria. And in that time frame, you could have done 4 or 5 normal attacks, and that would deal more damage without having to have shields. So personally, I recommend the 4-piece Gladiator. However, it is hard to farm the 4-piece Gladiator, so you might end up farming 4-piece Bolide, or the other option is 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry for more physical damage. So the choice boils down to, do you have good 4-piece Gladiator artifacts? If yes, use 4-piece Gladiator. If not, are you okay with putting a shielder in your team comp and playing around that playstyle, putting a shield on Rosaria? Then go with Bolide. If not, then go with 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Bloodstained for a more general build with no conditions attached. Now let's talk about the weapons. Obviously, all the 5 stars are going to be good on her. Staff of Homa, Jade Spear, Vortex Vanquisher, Skyward Spine. For 4 stars, the Deathmatch and Blackcliff are going to be good because they have crit stats, making building characters much easier, and substat RNG much less of a headache. If you got a crit rate weapon, go with a crit damage circlet and vice versa. Still, you want to maintain a ratio of 1:2 crit rate to crit damage. For free-to-play options is where it gets interesting. We got the Crescent Pike, we got the Dragon Spine Spear. Now we know that for Xiangling physical DPS, the best weapon is Crescent Pike because of its high base attack, physical damage substat, and the multiple procs of its passive providing additional damage, coupled with the fact that Xiangling's normal attacks have a high number of hits and high attack speed. Now Rosaria has 2 less hits than Xiangling, but she also finishes her full normal attack combo earlier. As of now, there is no reason to think that Dragon Spine Spear will be better than Crescent Pike, even if the enemy is affected by cryo. But to be sure, we will test out both spears at level 90 on day 1. So make sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube, follow if you're on Facebook, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on that video. Again, all of the information that we know today could still change on the day of her release, but for the most part, it's probably going to be accurate. If you'd like to discuss the hype around Rosaria, or just ask for help farming stuff, join our Discord. We got over 5,000 people in there. We'll make more in-depth Rosaria guides when she does come out, but for now, I'll see you on the next video, or you can catch me on my live streams, link in the description. I'll see you around.